Eccoci, riprendiamo dopo il workshop. Chiamo subito qui sul palco Filippo De Vita, Head of Digital Solutions Marketing di Vodafone, per un breve intervento. Prego.
Buongiorno. Un anno fa abbiamo fatto una rilevazione interna e come forse avete già sentito anche da altre parti, la rete Vodafone genera ogni giorno circa 20 miliardi di interazioni con i vari dispositivi di tutti i tipi che sono presenti sul territorio. In realtà questa è una stima sempre in evoluzione, il traffico dati anno su anno aumenta del 50%, quindi ci aspettiamo che la prossima rilevazione sarà nell'ordine di 30 miliardi di interazioni, che se facciamo due divisioni rispetto al numero di dispositivi che si collegano alla rete Vodafone, stiamo parlando di qualche migliaio di interazioni per dispositivo, che se lo dividiamo per il numero di minuti in una giornata sono quindi informazioni oltre il minuto, come granularità sul 100% del territorio nazionale. Questi dati grezzi, che fra l'altro noi come Vodafone anonimizziamo alla fonte, ed è un termine tecnico-legalese e condizio sine qua non per poter anche stare qui su questo palco a raccontarvi questa piccola storia, questi dati producono informazioni. La prima cosa che però vorrei brevemente accennare è in realtà che ci sono informazioni e dati. Quello di cui non parliamo questa mattina come Vodafone sono quelle informazioni personali, personal data che devono essere, come tutti i dati, bisogna richiedere un consenso specifico per essere utilizzati, e ci sono tanti business nel mondo che utilizzano questi dati per fare la profilazione della singola persona, super profilazione in tantissimi ambiti. Io qui ho tradotto in una parola il one-to-one, che sia advertising, marketing o quello che sia. In realtà noi in Vodafone non facciamo questo. I Vodafone Analytics fanno un qualcosa che sta dall'altra parte del campo, non che ci sia nulla di male in questo, ma noi chiediamo un consenso per fare altre cose. E altre cose che non sono, vedete nell'asse delle Y, ecco il one-to-one marketing, ma mettiamo a servizio del sistema paese di varie industries, trasporto, retail, outdoor advertising, pubblica amministrazione, turismo sotto tantissime sfumature. Noi raccontiamo quante persone fanno qualcosa, non chi, non ne abbiamo idea, perché l'anonimizzazione e l'aggregazione alla fonte, non c'è enrichment, scusate il termine tecnico, sull'anagrafica del cliente, che invece viene tagliata immediatamente nel momento di raccolta del dato, con il consenso chiaramente ad hoc per questa tipologia di utilizzo. E noi contiamo, quindi noi diciamo quante, l'aggettivo in questo caso, quante persone fanno qualcosa, come si muovono nel territorio. Vediamo come si muovono. Questo è un video di uno strumento che noi abbiamo messo a disposizione di tante pubbliche amministrazioni e tante grandi aziende, in questo caso uno strumento messo in mano al Comune di Milano, quindi siamo a Milano e ne siamo orgogliosi, per raccontare quante persone sono andate per esempio alla Design Week di aprile in una specifica giornata, e vediamo come si sono mosse. Ecco, io sto chiedendo al sistema quante persone sono state alla Design Week quel giorno, che strada hanno fatto, come si sono mosse prima dell'evento e dopo l'evento, avendo clusterizzato quelle che io reputo da analisi statistiche, quante persone hanno fatto un qualche cosa. Come vedete, le persone si stanno spostando sulle arterie principali del paese, con varie forme di trasporto che noi possiamo quantificare. Verso le 11, cioè il picco di presenza all'interno di quell'area, e vediamo vedete il clock in alto alla vostra sinistra, come poi le persone qui clusterizzati per italiani e stranieri, quindi una clusterizzazione molto basica, rispetto a quelle che possiamo mettere a disposizione della pubblica amministrazione, come si sono spostati nella città. E siccome siamo a Milano, una delle prime cose che ho imparato quando mi sono trasferito qui da Roma, come chi è andato alla settimana del design, dove è andato a prendere l'aperitivo. Ci sono alcuni bar, alcuni locali che sono sicuro qualcuno di voi spotterà. Ora, questo è un esempio del quanti. Ora, questo è il knowledge, la conoscenza che in questo caso Vodafone porta alla pubblica amministrazione, alle aziende, partendo da dei dati anonimizzati, aggregati e proiettati sul 100% della popolazione, in maniera tale che con quella conoscenza il sistema paese, perdonatemi il termine un po' retorico, può prendere delle azioni finalmente data driven, o come racconteremo nel pomeriggio, data influenced, che è un po' più una combinazione del know-how dell'azienda e della pubblica amministrazione e dei dati come strumento a supporto decisionale. Lascio quindi la parola al prossimo speaker che vi parlerà del valore, che noi sposiamo assolutamente, perché non è tanto il dato iniziale che ha valore, quanto il valore che ci si aggiunge tramite algoritmi, tramite metodologie o, come racconterà Jeremy, tramite anche cultura, che può portare il Paese al prossimo step del processo di digital transformation. Grazie mille.
Grazie Filippo De Vita, piacere averla avuta con noi. Io per andare avanti volevo raccontarvi un piccolo aneddoto, probabilmente molti di voi conoscono Dave Morgan. Dave Morgan, che oggi è il CEO di Simul Media, è stato fondatore della Takoda Incorporation, cioè una società di advertising online pioniera a suo tempo nell'analisi, diciamo, del marketing comportamentale. Ora, ai tempi di Takoda, Dave ha scoperto una cosa quasi incredibile, cioè un giorno, analizzando i dati, ha scoperto che le persone che avevano appena letto un necrologio online nei minuti successivi erano molto più propense ad affittare un'auto per il weekend. Dave non ha mai capito il perché, però ha fatto un sacco di soldi con le società di noleggio. Perché vi racconto questa cosa? Perché una spia è un piccolo indicatore, è la punta di un iceberg di un fenomeno molto più vasto. I big data non sono soltanto un oceano enorme che cresce a ogni istante, ma funzionano anche secondo regole che non sono necessariamente quelle intuitive. Allora conoscere i dati non basta, bisogna conoscere quali sono i dati che servono a noi, perché dobbiamo essere sicuri quando ci mettiamo a nuotare in questo mare, di nuotare verso la direzione dell'obiettivo, verso la terraferma, non verso un mare aperto di dati bellissimi ma che non ci portano da nessuna parte. Allora l'analisi deve essere funzionale a noi, non il contrario. Per fortuna, visto che navigare in questo mare è molto difficile, oggi qui con noi abbiamo un vero pioniere, una guida sicura di questo mare, ed I'm really happy to call on the stage Mr. Jeremy Palmer, CEO QuantumBlack McKinsey Group. Please, Mr. Palmer. Do you need this?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you and good morning. Can you hear me okay? Is that okay? Yeah? So before I start, let me just say three things. Firstly, I am sorry that I am not speaking wonderful Italian. I'm speaking in English today. So thank you for coming with me on a journey in English. Secondly, I want to say thank you to Cerved. This is an amazing event. And thirdly, a little piece of advice. One thing I have learned about these events is how many amazing people come to them, but it's very hard to find out exactly who they are. In the old days, you go to a conference and there would be people like you, right? Now, it's not like that. You could be sitting next to your next boss, you could be sitting to your next colleague, you could be sitting next to a competitor, or you could be sitting next to a client, which is fantastic, because we're all on this learning journey together. And we don't know who we're going to be working for next, and we don't know who we're going to be competing with next, because the space we're in is amazing and changing and relevant to everybody. So it's a great opportunity always to be part of a learning group like this. And I start by saying, hello, fellow students. We're all learning together. So My name is Jeremy Palmer. I'm the CEO of QuantumBlack. QuantumBlack is a 9-year-old company. We started 9 years ago. We had 3 people, and we were interested in performance. We were working in sport, and all we cared about was helping our clients, who at that time were sports teams, actually in Formula One, to do better. How could they perform better? How could they keep learning? What information is there out there to help them do a better job? Keep learning, keep improving, keep going faster. The beauty of sport, unlike the problems that many of us face, is that everybody knows what the metric is. There's only one metric, right? We talked about value. Where's the value in the business world is a subject we're going to come back to. Sport, you know what it's about. You can measure it. You win or you don't win. The other thing we know in sport is that everybody is trying to learn. We know that. Everybody is saying, how can I improve? So my question always to my colleagues and to our clients is, are we asking that question? Are we curious? Are we competitive? Are we continuously learning? So here's a picture from sport from a long time ago. What do we learn from this picture? Who do we think won that race? It's pretty obvious now, right? What an amazingly obvious piece of information that is available to everyone in that sport in 1896. And of course, this gentleman won. There's no surprise, right? He won the race. He had learned faster than his competition. And in that race in 1896, the winning margin was in tenths of a second, many tenths of 1 second. Guess what? Here we are, 120 years later. They've learned, right? Everybody's learned. They're competing the same way, but they're still trying to learn faster. They're still trying to go faster. They're still saying, I need to be the best I can be. And now the margins are hundreds, maybe thousands of a second, but they're still learning. They've got to keep learning. They've got to keep improving. They've got to keep being the best they can be and find any opportunity to keep learning. And that's what today is all about. That's what QuantumBlack is all about. And I think that's what's so exciting about the world we're in. It's about continuous learning and improvement and applying that wherever we can in innovative and exciting ways. So it's obvious then, we know that there's an arms race in innovation today. We know that data is important. Data is the title of this conference. But data is a fundamental element, but it's not everything. It's a fundamental element because information is the currency we need to learn. And we can get that information from lots of different places. When QuantumBlack started in Formula One, we were working on race strategy, how to win the race. We looked at all sorts of information. We looked at sensors coming off the engines. We looked at how much fuel was in the tank. We looked at whether the driver was tired. What could you learn from the timbre of the driver's voice about how tired he was? And then we learned more. We started looking at the video feeds. We started looking at the vibrations in the pit lane. We put a seismometer in the pit lane to figure out how much fuel was really going in the tank. Continuously learning, continuously looking for new data sources. QuantumBlack is doing that today in many fields. We are fortunate today to be part of McKinsey. We are now 320 people, I think. Data scientists, data engineers, designers, all focused on this question. Our purpose, our mission, how can we help our clients be the best they can be? Using data, using analytics, stay focused on performance, continuing to perform better and better and better. So we, QuantumBlack, moved from race strategy to thinking about other opportunities. And of course, in Formula One, there is the race behind the race, the car. How do we keep learning and improving the car? And we took that thinking and we said, what data, what information is there inside the R&D process of the team to help us understand how to accelerate and improve that process of R&D? So we looked at all sorts of different data, from team structures to iterations of CAD drawings to procurement. And we found there was indeed an opportunity to move beyond the race to building the car. And that's really when our journey started to accelerate. So I'm going to talk today about a few themes, some of which are obvious, but just to remind us. And then I'm going to talk about some examples of industries where we're working and where we think there's huge opportunities. And then I'm just going to finish with some lessons. So, this one is obvious. I'm not going to spend any time on it. There's a lot more data out there. It's cheaper to keep it, cheaper to process it, and we know we can do more with it. The main point is it's accelerating. It's not static. What do we know about technology revolutions? They're not one-time events. They move. Things change. As we learn, we apply things in different ways. They always they have one characteristic. An important activity becomes cheaper. We know the Industrial Revolution was about human power becoming cheaper. So the one that we're involved in right now is about reducing the cost of discovery. The cost of discovery, the cost of finding information has absolutely collapsed and continues to collapse. So we know that we have to maximize this opportunity, and we have to keep learning how to make the most of it. But focus on that point. If the cost of discovery is low, then everyone is doing it, which means we have to keep doing it, and we have to keep finding that next little piece of improvement based on the discovery that we make. We talk about augmented intelligence. Artificial intelligence implies that it has come from nowhere. It is synthetic. We believe that what we're trying to do is augment human intelligence. That's what the revolution is all about at the moment. It's about taking human capabilities and enhancing them. We need to understand what's going on, and we need to enable people to do more work, faster, better. The kind of waves that we always see, again, pretty obvious. Always to start with, you start with things we've always done. In any time you have a new capability, what do we do today that we can do better? Next, we say, what could we do that we couldn't do before? In this case, obviously, autonomous driving, no one ever imagined you could do that. Real-world evidence. We can look at millions of patients today, and we can take learnings from that and apply it to improving the treatment of individuals and the human condition. But the third piece is the one that really interests us. Have we got the opportunity now, have we got the imagination to move to this last phase, which is changing the way we do things, particularly in business, but also in all sorts of other domains and sporting teams, charities, and everywhere else? Can we reimagine our core operating process? Can we look at things like product development? Can we really understand what's happening and reimagine the way we're doing things? We know that this is already happening, right? We know that people who start early move faster. This is a McKinsey report which you can find. And on the vertical axis here, you see different industries. And on the horizontal axis, you see what are sometimes called use cases or types of application. The main message here is that the industries which start first accelerate fastest. It's accelerating, it's moving. Where are we all on this journey in our company, in our industry, of looking right across our model and thinking about how we can improve our performance? A really important theme is, particularly in the context of artificial intelligence, this is not a new concept. It's been in the laboratory for many, many years. The challenge has been taking it out of the laboratory and putting it into work. That's really hard. It's not just about, is there a super smart model which is better than the last model? It's, can we make it work in the real world? What do we need to think about to embed it in our operation? What are the ingredients for doing that? The first thing is explainability. It's no good if you can get 0.01% of uplift of performance unless you can explain how you got there. We know now that human beings like transparency. We also have regulation becoming more and more important. And critically, we have the importance of being able to go back and learn where we made a mistake. We have to be able to explain what we're doing. Not easy. It has to be resilient. It has to survive the real world. It has to survive data not being what we thought it was going to be. Some data sets might drop out. You might find some bias creeping in. It has to be resilient and survive real world application. So we use protocols. Protocols make sure that those first two things happen, because it means that we can always go back and we can say, this is what happened then, this is where we changed it, go back and learn if it didn't work. It also means the same for resilience. We think that if you can do these things together, you really can start to capture value. We find there are many, many situations where big companies, sophisticated companies, they want to get into this space, they hire a bunch of data scientists, and 3 or 4 years later, they're still talking about pilots, they're still saying we're not seeing real value, they're still saying how do we organize these resources. This slide, for us, explains how you turn theoretical opportunity into real opportunity. And the last thing, which is super important, is diversity. This word is used a lot in many different contexts. We are not in a world anymore where the oldest person in the room is the smartest person in the room. The hippo, as they say, the highest paid person in the organization, is not the person we should always be listening to. We need a diversity of perspective. We need different skills. You may have an engineer or a unit manager or a production line owner who's been doing the same job for the last 20 years and they think they know how to do the job best. How can we help them improve? The answer is you need different people working with them together to ensure that they can learn as a group and figure out where the opportunity lies. This is the biggest part of my personal job, is hiring these people and helping these people develop and making sure that when we go to work together with the client in a transparent, collaborative way, everybody understands there are different roles. We might have a very smart young person who's just finished their PhD and is an expert in a certain type of modeling. On their own, they would not make any difference. But you put them together with a data engineer who knows where the data is. You put them together with a domain expert. Designers, super important. This stuff has to be usable. It's got to be attractive. It's got to be relevant. This point about skills is critical. Not many organizations that are more than 15 years old have enough of these skills organized in the right way. Very important point, and we'll come on later to culture and what flows from having these people working together in the right way. So, there's some themes. Let's think about some real-world examples. This example is a luxury car manufacturer we work with who had a complicated history. They had different silos in their organization: design, engineering, sales, marketing, etc. And they had a problem because the car was late. The new car was late for the Geneva Motor Show. So we went in and we said, okay, what can we learn? What information, what data is available inside the organization to help us understand how we can improve the performance of the product development process? So don't worry about the detail. Too many words, too much detail on this page. The main point here is that each of these clusters represents previously unconnected parts of the organization. You can imagine HR has their own data, finance has their own data, engineering have their own data, procurement have their own data, but they never link them together to try and build an end-to-end picture of what is driving the process of building a new car. Where are the opportunities to improve and accelerate the building of a new car? So this map alone, building this map with the leadership team for the first time in a complex organization, they have a clearer picture of their own organization. So design is super important. We talked about culture. We talked about helping people see the world in new ways. This is a data set. This is data, right? This is actually a car. That's a motor car represented in a different way. All we did here was we said, let's map all of the components of the car. Let's understand the network, the connectivity between the different components. And from there, we'll understand what the most important parts are. So if you're trying to get right first time in a factory and you don't know which are the most important parts, it's very frustrating. You visualize it in this way, you sit down with the teams who own it, and you can start to have a different discussion about prioritizing your work and thinking about where you're going to go for improvement. Then we follow a process to build a model. So this is the process we use and software we use. In this case, not a very sophisticated model, just an explanatory model which just says, what are the opportunities to improve the performance of the R&D process, of the manufacture, of the new car process. And we identify very explicit opportunities. So we could see that you could take this number of days off the process by intervening in these different areas. You drill down below that. This was a particularly important one, adherence to the process of design. And there were some very explicit interventions. This is now really taking real-world examples. How do we turn data into real-world opportunities to improve our performance? And we achieved it. We took 10% off the time to market of a new car. We used 25 data sources. But this is when it starts to get interesting. Once we know that, where else can we go? Well, it turns out that if we add 14 more data sources, we can start to look at pre-production. Why are only 25 out of every 100 parts right first time? We can figure that out, and we can turn it to 80. From there, we can add 9 data sources, and we can start to look at the program costs. From there, we can look at after sales and understand what happens with warranty claims. And then we can say, moonshot, we can go out and we can look in the external world, and there's a ton of data out there about driver behavior, which if we link it back with everything else we know, we can start to think about new products again. We can actually customize new products according to driver behavior. So suddenly, from a company which had data sitting in different places all over its organization, you have an end-to-end picture of your organization, and you have ignited in that organization a culture of curiosity and continuous improvement. The more we learn, the more we work together, the better we can be, the better job we can do, the more satisfaction we can have. That's one example in autos. We have done similar things in other sectors. In pharmaceutical, bringing drugs to market quicker is where we started. We now work in real-world evidence with millions and millions of patient records to improve efficacy in treatment areas, therapeutic areas. Financial services, from customer acquisition to keeping customers. Telcos. This is happening everywhere. Natural resources. So we believe that this is just beginning, this opportunity. The constraint that exists is normally about how people approach the problem. It's about how we organize ourselves. It's about our culture, as well as about how we use technology. And right at the beginning, we talked about the importance of value and the importance of purpose. I'm going to come back to those, and I'm going to finish by saying what I think we're really trying to do here. A couple of patterns. Firstly is, a lot of people say, I'm not going to start until I've got everything organized. I need to build a data lake. I need to have my organization ready. I need to have my center of excellence. Start somewhere. Focus on the fact that every step leads to the next step. And what we're really talking about is compound improvement. Just like in sport, every little learning creates the next step of learning. So start with what you have. Think about the value in your organization in the data. Don't worry too much if some of it may be a little dirty and you haven't used it before and people tell you it's bad quality. Just be creative, evaluate where the value is, start to clean it and link it. And don't worry and invest particularly in data provenance, obviously. And the last point here is, of all of the V's that people talk about in data, velocity, etc., variety for us is the most important one. The more variety you have in terms of data sources, the more value you can create. So investing in machine-readable connectivity is the best thing you can do here. The second is, remember, this is not an endpoint. This is a continuous journey. It's a continuous learning journey. It's not like we find the data once and then our journey's over. We find what we can learn from the data, and then we need to keep looking at the data. You know, in racing, in sport, you have a strategy at the beginning of the race in Formula One, and normally within 90 seconds, you've hit the first corner, and guess what? Your strategy's gone. So you need to look at the data again and again and again. So feedback loops. We talk a lot about loops and not lines. Instrument everything you can, obviously. Miners now have helmets which tell you when they're getting tired. We know what's happening in machines. We can look at processes. And do it at scale. And focus on out-learning others. How can we accelerate learning in our organization? And lastly, this is an important point. Try and move beyond the models. The models are super important, and they will continue to move. The technology will continue to improve. But it's really about looking through that to the long-term improvements to your organization, to building that learning culture, continuously focusing on value and improvement. So embedding them in the operating model, and also thinking about the risks, thinking about the things we talked about earlier, resilience, transparency, these kind of things. look towards operationalization. Machine learning means nothing if it's not embedded in a process which works inside your organization. Protocols. We've become massive believers in protocols. If people know how to work together, they will learn quicker, you'll be able to go back on mistakes. And also, critically, in a change environment where you're changing a culture, if we're following a process together, then we take away a lot of the tension on the change journey. And new styles of leadership. Data is critical, we talked about it. But all these other things matter too. The analytics, so that we know what we're going to do with it. Never forget human judgment. We still need domain experts in the room. We need doctors with us when we're looking at all the data coming in from patients so we can filter out the stuff which doesn't make sense. We still need human judgment. Action. If you can't define an action which is going to follow a learning, it has no value. And lastly, most of all, culture. Culture is about this spirit of curiosity. It's about saying, we're going into a room to see how we can improve, and we're going to explore the data. It's not a competition to see who knows more. It's not about who's the most senior person. It's that culture of continuous learning and exploration focused on improvement. So, in conclusion, this is my last slide. If you put all these things together, we know that data is critical. We know that data is super important. But we believe you have to have in your mind all the time this end-to-end thinking whenever we're talking about what we're going to do with data. You need to start with the value. We talked about in sport, everybody knows what is the value. Everybody knows how to measure it. I'm sure you've had the experience, I have many times, of being in a room and people have done a lot of work and they haven't thought about what is the metric that we can use to measure improvement. Start with that. Don't move from there until you've got that. The data is critical. We talked about making it machine readable, talked about connecting it up, keep it flowing, loops, not lines. Machine learning and AI, these are tools that we can use. They're changing, they're moving all the time. We need a protocol in which to deploy them, but they're part of this process, this end-to-end process. And action we talked about. If there isn't an intervention that you can specifically identify and measure as a result of this process, you have no value that you can talk about. And lastly, culture. This is about leadership, it's about change, it's about bringing together skills and people who haven't spent time together before. Some of them are very experienced and very old, like me. Some are very young, they've just left academia. How do we get these people together? How do we help people who've been doing the same job for a long time and doing it well and are highly professional, but how do we help them see that there may be ways that we can do it better? Culture is critical. Leadership is critical. Leadership buy-in is, in my experience so far, the single biggest deciding factor as to whether an organization can go on this journey successfully. But if you can get that leadership buy-in in your organization, there is huge potential out there. In all of the industries we've talked about, in many others, there's so much opportunity with tools that are available today, not science fiction, to find improvements right across the value chain, to look at better ways of doing the jobs we do, to look at new products and services, which will not only improve our organization, but be exciting and interesting for our people, and excite our customers as well. Massive amount of opportunity. Never forget the value. Culture at the end of it. Data is right in the middle. Thank you very much indeed. Can you do that?